So on the topic of, the protest that you've done today,
Mhm.
there's some people actually watching probably doesn't even know how this all started off,
Mhm.
with Hamas, etc. And some people don't even know some of the terminology like Zionism, what it sort of
Yeah.
means. So a part of this protest, we know there's things going on in the Middle East sort of right now, with Palestine and Israel. What was justified, what isn't justified, like what's exactly been going on?
Yeah, so it's very hard to say in a few minutes, but essentially, Muslims, Jews, Christians lived in the Middle East. The Middle East is known as a Holy Land, particularly that part of the world. Jerusalem, Bethlehem. Bethlehem is where Jesus, he's from Nazareth, but they say he was born in Bethlehem. A lot of prophets went through Jerusalem. Third holiest site of Islam is in Jerusalem. The Temple of Solomon, the Wall of Jericho, all these are in Jerusalem. These are very, very sacred to Jews. So you've got three religions there: Judaism, Islam, Christianity, which are very, very they hold that place dearly. Zionism is a very political but irreligious ideology which aims to establish a Jewish ethnic homeland in the Middle East based on ethno-supremacist boundaries. The way it treats Palestinians is as second-class citizens, even those who are Jewish. So there's actually a reasonably large population of Ethiopian Jews and Yemeni Jews that aren't white, but they're treated as second-class citizens in Israel because it's essentially a European fascist project founded by Theodor Herzl in the late 1890s. So 130 years ago, the Balfour Declaration at the beginning of the 1900s, signed by Arthur Balfour through the commissioning of Lord Rothschild, gave the Jews a homeland in the Middle East. But in fact, most Orthodox Jews state that this is in direct opposition to Judaism. So Zionism is based on ethno-supremacist lines. It's a political ideology, just like British nationalism or Hindu nationalism or ISIS, for instance. These are hijacking of a faith based on supremacy, and that causes a lot of rift and causes a lot of subjugation of other religions.
I've heard that Palestine used to be a lot bigger,
Yes,
and slowly, Israel has been taking
exactly.
over.
Yeah.
You
So
know, s-
it's annexed a lot of the land. So if you look at Palestine, it was in between Jordan and Egypt, a huge land. But it's been reduced to, well, it was reduced to two strips: Gaza Strip in the western part, and in the eastern part was the West Bank, Jerusalem, where Jerusalem is. But now Gaza Strip's been wiped away. So you've had a lot of people migrate to Rafah. 2 million people have been displaced. 40,000 people have been killed. 70% of them are children. So we're seeing genocide now, ethnic cleansing, on a global scale.
and what started this?
So what started this is 75 years of oppression from Zionists that want to control the land. They want the whole Palestine to themselves. In fact, the Greater Israel idea, the Greater Israel dream, is to have from Egypt all the way to Jordan, the whole area as Israel. So this has been systematic annexation and ethnic cleansing of indigenous Palestinians, whether they're Christian or Muslim. It doesn't matter. The religion doesn't matter. It's essentially they wanted a Jewish homeland in that region. So more and more have been forced. So Jordan, for instance, has the highest number of refugees in the world per capita because most of them are Palestinian. They've been forced into Jordan from Palestine. And so Zionism aims to create a state through any means necessary by breaking international laws and regulations in Palestine. And in the process, it's annexing all Palestinians to the periphery of Palestine. So essentially, Palestine becomes Israel. So
So,
this is a form of fascism.
so this is like a steaming pot, just something was waiting to go
Yeah,
off.
exactly. So October the 7th, the resistance of Hamas, they launched an attack on Israel, and that started this current genocide, which is on the 7th of October, 40,000 people dead, 80% of the homes destroyed, 50% of the infrastructure completely destroyed, over 1,000 mosques destroyed, majority of the hospitals destroyed. Like I say, 70% of the people killed were women and children. So this is not attacking Hamas. If anything, Hamas have not actually been attacked at all. Hamas are still ongoing. So this has been an attack really against the civilian population, which is broken, and like the United Nations said in January, this passes the standard for genocide. This actually passes the requirement for genocide. The threshold has been met. 40,000 people dead, majority women and children. Aid has been stopped. Hospitals have been bombed. Aid workers have been targeted deliberately. This is textbook genocide. If you're attacking Hamas, you attack with precision. You don't attack hospitals. You don't attack aid workers. You don't attack doctors, nurses, teachers, hospitals, nurseries, orphanages. You don't attack. You have rules of war.
How's this allowed to happen right now? I know you're not in charge of this or anything, but what we see sort of on the, like, I don't really watch a lot of media at all, so I don't really know what goes on. But occasionally when you do watch the news, it's like you see a debate and it was like, this was started by Hamas and this is all sort of justified. That's what it looks. And a lot of the real images are not even being shown.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a complete fallacy. It's like people conveniently ignore 75 years of ethnic cleansing. Let's read about the Nakba in 1948 when 700,000 Palestinians were forced to flee to Jordan and other parts of the Middle East. So you can't ever say it started on 7th of October. This is a long war. Not really a war. It's one-sided. Hamas or Palestine don't really have a military. Whereas Israel, it's like the fourth strongest military in the world. Heavily armed, heavily commissioned by the West. It's been supported through aid and through arms trade. So this is not a two-sided war. A war is between two militaries. Here it's between military and a armed resistance group, which is actually resisting an illegal occupation.
When you think about, religion and thoughts and, right and wrong and good and evil, where do you see this in terms of, like, I've heard that at one stage that the Palestinian people gave Israelis like a home to live in,
That's right, yeah.
and they've just went, well, thank you, we'll have that and we'll have more of
We'll have
it,
more,
and
exactly.
we'll kick more of you out. And it feels like, from this story, the way it's like playing out currently, it looks like, the bad side's winning really, and just nothing's happening about it.
Yeah, the bad side is winning. The mask has fallen off for what Israel really wants. It really wants the whole Palestine to itself. And process like today, even 6 months later, 200 days have passed since the genocide started. Protests are getting more and more. Like, we're not losing our momentum. We're actually calling on the British government to sanction Israel. Previously, a war's happened and aggressions happened from Israel, and people have lost momentum after a few weeks. And this is what Israel wants to happen. They want you to speak about it, but then stop so they can continue their genocide. This time, we've not stopped speaking about it. It's something that's been ongoing. It's something which will never really lose momentum until the whole Zionist project is disbanded. Because essentially, it is a project. It is a Western-backed colonial settler project in the Middle East. It's an experiment to see if we can bring back Jewish people to their indigenous homeland. And when I say Jewish people, I mean these guys are mainly from Russia, Poland, Belarus, Ukraine. These are Central and Eastern European people who don't have any Jewish ancestry, but based on flimsy ideological grounds, they are Zionists who want to reclaim the land as their own.
I've heard this sort of terminology that Jewish people run the world. Have you ever heard that?
I have heard that, but that's not true. I think we have to be careful. It's because that then brings about anti-Semitic tropes. Who runs the world is a very elite group of let's say despotic, hedonistic, liberal elite who run the banking systems.